Alright guys, we back. We got some more FEH content today. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at all of the Emblem Rings that released in Fire Emblem Engage, and then I'm going to give my opinion on what I think their effects will be when they finally get added to FEH. So, we already have two rings. We've got Marth's ring and we've got Ike's ring, and we can see what they do. So Marth does -1 special trigger, and then Ike does 40% damage reduction against ranged opponents. What it seems like is that all of these Emblem Rings are going to tack their effects onto your special. It's like an enhanced special is literally what it says. So, for Marth's ring, he's got Divine Speed, which allows him to perform an extra attack at 50% damage in combat. I guess that would translate to the Potent ability that Marth Emblem had as his B-slot passive. And then Lodestar Rush used 7 consecutive attacks at 30% damage, which basically just gives you a whole bunch of hits. It's a pretty strong special, and how they translated this was just giving him -1 special trigger, which I guess kinda plays up to the fact that he's just hitting the opponent a whole bunch of times. And if you're using Brave attacks, you also lower your damage by 8 points, I think it is. 8 flat points of damage loss when your weapon has a Brave attack with Marth's ring equipped. So I guess that would play up the fact that he's only doing 30% damage with his 7 consecutive hits. So there we go for Marth's ring. Alright, next up, of course, we've got Emblem Ike's ring, and his ring did Lagu's Friend, which unit takes 50% less damage but sets avoidance to 0. Obviously, Ike is trying to just tank the opponents instead of dodge them, which makes sense. But it's kind of weird how they did it in FEH, where it's only against ranged opponents where you're getting the damage reduction. I guess you could argue maybe it would be like too broken if it was non-pierceable DR against both, like ranged and melee. But we already have specials that do that, like the Lightless Luna from Zelgius, and then also we've got Negating Fang, we've got Ice Mirror from Fiorm. Even though it's not as potent against melee types, it still does work against melee types. Then there's like Godlike Reflexes and stuff. So there's plenty of skills that already have non-pierceable DR against both melee and range. So I'm not sure why they limited Ike's ring to only be ranged, but regardless, it still does what I expected it to do, which was provide damage reduction. And then, of course, Great Ether, which is his perf skill, gives him defense and res up 5. He can't act for 1 turn, which should translate to the enemies getting auto Vantage and auto Desperation. They get to move first, and then him getting defense and res is like him getting the non-pierceable DR on Great Ether. And then his next attack does massive damage and he heals, which, again, is pretty much how it works in the game. So there we have for the 2 existing rings. Now let's go ahead and move on to some of the more speculative rings. I can't say for certain what all of these are going to do. This is just my thought on what I think they're going to do. So we're going to start things off with Celica's ring here. Okay, so Celica has these 2 abilities, Echo and Warp Ragnarok. Echo is going to use magic attack damage at 50% damage. Use a second time to launch another 50% attack. So you can do this to deal a little bit of damage to the opponents with... How does this work again? I actually don't even remember how this one works. I don't recall using Celica's ring too much after the time skip thing, or not time skip, but the like skip thing happens where after chapter 10 the all your emblem rings turn evil, and then Celica's ring is one of the rings you lose at that time. So like when she comes back, she's kind of underpowered, so I don't recall using her ring too much. But okay, so she does this effect, and then Warp Ragnarok, this is what I do remember about her. She's able to warp wherever the hell she wants and then use a magic attack. I believe it's limited to the amount of magic your stat is. That's how far you can warp. Alright, dragons get a range of... Or no, it's just warp up to 10 spaces, so it doesn't have to do with your stats. Okay, so Celica here. Let's go ahead and add Celica to our list. Now, Warp Ragnarok, I'm not sure how they're going to handle the attack, but I think I know how they're just going to handle the warp, which is... We've got a lot of warp effects in the game. Wings of Mercy, Escape Route, both of those would be possible effects. And what other warping type of effects we've got? Guidance 4, Soaring Guidance, things like that. But they probably want to make this a little bit further in reach than those. So I'm thinking maybe like Escape Route. If your HP is low, you'll be able to warp around to allies. Or if one of your allies has low HP, maybe you can warp to them. Let's just go with Escape Route for argument's sake. Escape Route 4. So, one of the first effects of Escape Route 4 is you can warp to an ally that is within 3 spaces, and then when your HP is low... Or was that Wings of Mercy? that lets you first warp to someone in 3 spaces, and then when their HP is low, you can just warp to them wherever. I think it's going to be something like that. And as for her passive B skill, it's probably going to be Echo, which is this. Like, you go ahead and use this, and you get your 50% attack, magic attack. So that'll probably be her passive skill. Okay, let's go ahead and move on now. Alright, Sigurd's ring is up next, and this one I think I have a better grasp on what this one's going to do. So, Gallop grants move up 5, obviously busted as hell. That's probably just going to translate in Fae to +1 movement. And considering that all of these skills are going to be tacked onto your special, we've already seen +1 movement on a special before, on Sigurd himself. He has it on Holy Knight Aura. So, I think +1 move is pretty fair to say. Alright, then also he's got Override, which used to attack and move through a line of adjacent foes. So basically this is like Lunge on top of being able to do a little bit of extra damage. I think that shouldn't be too hard to translate into Fae. We already have Lunge as a passive skill. So having Sigurd just like attack an enemy and then after the attack he lunges through them. Maybe it'll be an extra space besides Lunge. It'll be like a 2-space lunge. Something like that could be possible. I'm not too sure how beneficial that would be in Fae, though, because typically in this game you want to attack and then get the hell out of the way instead of attack and then push even deeper into enemy lines. But that's probably what his passive is going to end up doing. And then he could also possibly give Kanto as well. He does have Kanto access on his ring. It's one of the other things that he does. So he'll probably give like +1 movement and maybe Kanto 1. I think isn't too hard to ask on his ring, because like Kanto 1 as well, we've seen on a special like with Legendary Lucina, they gave that to her on her special. Alright, so that's my prediction for his ring. Okay, next up we've got Leaf's ring. This is a more interesting one, because his effects are a little bit more like up in the air. It's hard to say what this is going to do in Fae. But he's got Adaptable here, which if the foe initiates combat, then he counters with his best available weapon. That would probably end up being Vantage, which is kind of nutty. Let's go ahead and put that in there. It's absolutely going to have some kind of HP condition if they do this, because like just auto Vantage in Fae is really annoying. And then Quadruple Hit attacks once with a sword, lance, axe, and a bow. This would probably be like some sort of effective damage kind of thing. Because, like, the point of attacking with all 4 of the different weapons is that one of them is going to have weapon advantage on the foe you're attacking, right? So, like, this will probably give you effective damage on your attacks or, like, color advantage even maybe on one of your attacks. So, like, Triangle Adept 4 or, like, something like that, I could see being a thing for this guy's passive. And then for his Emblem Ring effect, I think he's going to end up having Vantage in some way or form. I think that makes the most sense for him. He also does have Vantage down here as one of his passive skills. Alright, so there we go for Leaf. Next up, we've got Roy here. So a lot of people are excited about Roy's ring, which makes sense. I mean, we don't have any good Roys in the game yet. Okay, so Rise Above grants level up 5. How would they do that in Fae? Like, give you just stats, I guess? Like, give you all stats up 3, maybe? Like, give you Auto Fury. I guess that would make sense, right? Like, Roy is the Blazing Lion, and the icon for Fury is Lion. I wrote Lion. My bad, guys. Yeah, so Roy, he might have, like, built-in Fury. Like, Fury 3, I think. What else do we have here? So, Blazing Lion, used to attack adjacent foe and an area 3 spaces wide. Target area and 2 rows beyond it are set on fire. We've already seen this in Fae. This is the Flared Sparrow effect, where you attack the enemy, and then after combat, you're setting up fire tiles. So they could easily just tack on like Flared Sparrow onto his ring effect, and then make it like 2 rows of flame tiles, like how the Winter Edelgard does it. When she attacks, she sets it up twice. So yeah, that could also be a thing too. Or is that going to be his passive? That might be his passive, I think, because like giving every single movement type access to Flared Sparrow, probably not the best idea in the world. So, like, Fury 3, I think, might make a little bit more sense to be on the Emblem Ring. But then, I mean, you never know with these guys, right? Like, they don't seem to care. They'll probably just, like, break the game wide open. So, let's toss in Flared Sparrow in here some way or form. I'm not 100% sure if they're going to put that on the ring or the stats on the ring, but it could go either way. Okay, next up we've got Lynn's ring here, so Lady of the Plains. Okay, Lynn's ring is actually my favorite ring in Engage. So she's got call doubles, which allows her to make 4 copies of herself, which will force the enemies to target the copies. And then it gives her like a bunch of bonus damage and bonus crit and stuff while she's fighting. And it also gives her a lot of dodge too. And then she also has Astra Storm, which lets her attack 5 times from like a billion range away. This, I'm not exactly sure how this is going to translate into Fae, because we don't have any attacks right now that go further than 2 spaces. Like, we don't have a longbow in this game that hits from 3 spaces, or like bolting tomes, and what are the other ones? Meteor that can hit you from like wherever the hell they want. So we don't really have that in Fae, and we certainly don't have the ability to make doubles of ourselves. So it's kind of hard to say like exactly what Lynn's ring is going to do here. This one may be the most questionable one out of them, because there's not really like a clear-cut answer here. So I guess we're just going to go like full-on speculation. Maybe she will introduce like 3 range attacks. Maybe she'll be a bow unit and have like longbow, and Lynn can attack from 3 spaces away, possibly. That's the only thing I can think of to like really try to match what she did in Engage here. Her other effects, she does have Speed Taker as well, and Alacrity, aka Desperation. So maybe we'll have effects like that on her. Yeah, this one's a tough one. I'm actually kind of stumped on Lynn's ring. Let me know in the comments section what you guys think Lynn's abilities are going to translate to in Fire Emblem Heroes. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the Azure Twins ring, which is Efron and Erica's ring. Okay, this one's actually a pretty cool ring because it has 2 effects. You're getting the effects of Lynn, or Erica, and also Efron. I'm not sure if they're going to do that in Fae. Like, just to stretch the game out longer, they're probably going to do a separate ring each for one of them. So we'll probably get like an Erica ring and then also an Efron ring instead of a 2-in-1. So, okay, let's start with Erica first, I guess. Now, Erica has Luna built in, which is actually really strong. So if unit initiates combat with a physical attack, deals damage, extra damage equal to 20% of foe's defense. So true damage based on foe's defense, that's already an ability we have in the game. So that seems to make perfect sense to just have that. Like 20, it's on Occult Strike and Assassin Strike already, so we'll probably have that built in. 20% damage on foe's def res. That seems to be good for the special. And then for Efron's ring here, he's got Solar Brace now. So this one is basically just soul. He recovers HP. Not super broken, right? Like, just healing HP. Maybe if it's like after combat healing or something. Let's see. How much healing would he have to do? He would have to heal like Great Ether, where it would be like a flat heal after combat. So like automatically heals like half of his HP after combat. Let's say something like that. Like, that's what it would have to be for a heal effect. 50% post-combat heal. How about that? And then their other effects, they've got Eclipse Brace here, which when you initiate combat, you do bonus damage based on 20% of their defense with physical attacks, and you recover HP. So this is kind of like just 2-in-1 for the most part, like you do both. It's like having a built-in ether. But I think for the most part, their separate rings are going to do the Lunar Brace and then the Solar Brace effect. Alright, Night and Day lets you switch between both. That's not probably going to be in Fae. Unless they make them like a duo emblem hero, which would be weird. And then Sacred Twins, while engaged, yeah, like you get separate effects and then Twin Strike. This was a pretty complex ring here. Used to make sword attack followed by a lance attack from Efron on the adjacent foe. So this one does also effective damage on Corrupted, which, I mean, we don't even have Corrupted enemies in the game yet, which would be an amazing mode to add. Like, come on, Insys, what are you waiting for? Tower of Volney, Lagdo Ruins mode, where we're fighting hordes and hordes of mobs and like zombies and stuff. That would be awesome. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Micaiah's ring now. Okay, so this is another one of the most OP rings in Engage. So Micaa gives you so many effects. Where do we even begin? Alright, Augment increases the range of staff healing. They could probably give her built-in odd and even recovery. I think is a possible thing for her. Because, like, we're not going to increase the range on your healing effects. But what do we have in FEH right now that's an auto heal is odd and even recovery. So I think that's possible. And then also Great Sacrifice does the same thing too. It's just like a heal. But it heals your entire team and then it reduces her HP to 1. So I think that's possibly what we're going to see here. She also has the Warp Staff, which makes her really busted. She can warp your allies in as far as she wants. Like, I think it's based on a stat check on, like, how much res she's got. I don't know where it is right now. I'd have to, like, read around. But I think she'll probably have just built-in odd and even recovery, which is already really strong. I mean, we've seen how strong King Freyr is. We've seen how strong, like, Safi is. Just having that instant heal to remove any penalties and then also get back some HP is already really good. Okay, we've got the Exalt ring up next. This was who? Lucina? Okay, so Lucina's ring is up next. Now, this is another one that could go any way, because Lucina really tried to play up that ability where you do the shield. I forget what it's called, like the bonded shield, where you're adjacent to an ally and engage, and then you can negate all damage that you take. That would not happen in FEH, but let's see here. Used to prevent first attacks on adjacent allies until your next turn. This might be pierceable DR. Like how they gave Emblem Ike non-pierceable DR, this might be pierceable DR in like a ludicrous amount. Like 70% pierceable DR or something like that. I don't think that would be too outlandish or far-fetched, because we have a lot of ways to pierce DR anyway. And then All for One, used to make a sword attack against an adjacent foe. All allies in 2 spaces chain on the attack. So this was for like the group hits, where you've got a bunch of allies close by, and then you can all just gang up on the opponent. I don't know how this would translate into FEH either. This would be weird. We don't really have an effect like this, but for the Bonded Shield, I think she'll probably just get like pierceable DR in a high amount. So like, let's say maybe 80% pierceable DR. And then maybe that'll be like maybe for the first hit, and then for the second hit she gets like less. But this only works on the first hit, so like that probably makes the most sense. Like just give her first attack 80% pierceable DR. Probably would chain on brave hits too, since we're doing that now. Yeah, like every single point of non-pierceable DR or pierceable DR we've got now is just like applicable to like brave hits now. Okay, so the Ring of Engage, this is going to be, or no, this is Byleth's ring, right? Yeah, Crux of Fate. Okay, so we got Byleth's, or no, not Byleth's ring. This is Corrin's ring. Okay, so Corrin's ring, of course, sets up the terrain spaces. He can set up a multitude of terrains, so I'm not sure if they're going to pick specifically one. Like, so far we've only seen stone terrain on Corrin, which was the Brave Corrin. But, I mean, Corrin has done many other terrains. She's done fog, she's done the water tiles, she can do fire tiles, so which tile are they going to have her set up? Since I think Roy might do fire tiles, I think Corrin might do, like, the stone tiles or the water tiles. Maybe even fog if they want to be really busted about it. She also has Dreadful Aura, which, after you attack a foe, the target and then foes in 2 spaces end their turn automatically. Oh, God. Are we doing this on Corrin's ring? We're going to give her the end enemy turn effect like we have on Duo Leon and, like, Duo Satyr and stuff? Huh. Which of the... okay, so probably the stone tiles are, or whatever divine stone tile, or divine stones... I keep calling it stone tiles. Whatever divine tiles they decide to give to Corrin will probably end up being part of her passive, let's say. Because, like, this is a little bit more concrete. I think this would be harder to do on a passive, because, like, just letting any unit automatically end enemies' turns is too much. So, probably, let's say, like, after combat, end enemy action. Look how I spelled enemy there. I was such a dummy. And then, end your enemy action and then also chain it to, like, foes within 2 spaces, I guess. Or, like, would 2 spaces be too busted? Or, like, target adjacent foes. Let's say chain to adjacent foes. Yeah, like, that seems fair, right? Because, like, the reason why Leon's is so busted is because it can reach, like, 4 spaces away. So if it's only to nearby foes, it may not be that bad, but then it's also going to hit all of them. So if they've got, like, 2 allies close by, then you hit both of them and end their actions. Yeah, something like that. I think that would be okay. Well, not okay. I think that's busted, but still. That's probably what it'll do. Something like that. Okay, we've got Byleth's Ring up next. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here. Okay, so this guy has a bunch of dance abilities, which is interesting. Now, one interesting thing about the dance skills, like Firestorm Dance, Rock Slide Dance in Fire Emblem Heroes, is that you can inherit those on every unit, not just dancers, which I've always found to be weird, but because not every unit is able to use a dance skill. What if this ability allows you to use Singer Dance on the character that it has equipped? Like, it enables dancing. So you could just turn any unit you want into a dancer. That would be very interesting, right? Obviously, they're not going to do it this way where you just grant an extra action to all adjacent allies. That would be way too busted in this game. But I think allowing any unit to become a refresher would be very interesting. That would be a really cool mechanic. Now, there's also another way that they could do it, which is the Brave Marianne way, where after she procs her special, then she grants a dance to an ally that has already acted within 2 spaces who has the highest HP. So I think that would be the most likely, considering this is going to be built into the special. So let's say Brave Marianne's... Or what was the name of her actual dance? Requiem Dance? Also, considering that Requiem Dance is a 3 houses skill, kind of goes in line with it being on Byleth. You also can grant allies in 2 spaces stat bonuses based on their user type. So Instruct would probably be like some kind of special rally effect that they're going to give to him. Maybe like Gold Serpent, but like a different kind of way that it's going to work on this Emblem Byleth. And then he's got like all of the regalia from 3 houses. He's going to be a really cool ring whenever he comes out. So there we go for Byleth. And then this is the final Emblem Ring, which is going to wrap us up, at least for the main rings. I might do a separate video for DLC rings, because we've already almost gone for like 25 minutes here. Okay, we'll finish up on the final one of the main line, or main story rings here. So that would be Alear. Alright, so what do we think Alear is going to end up doing here? Okay, so we got Holy Aura, effective against dragons, yeah. That could probably be built into the ring. I don't see why not. Attuned. Unit initiates combat and defeats a foe. Gets all sets of 4 to your engaged partner. Huh. That could be like some of the specials that Marth has. What is it called again? Like Fire Emblem, I think. Or like Hero's Blood. After he procs the special, everyone gets like all stats of 6. That could be... I could believe that. That could be a thing they could give to his ring. You got Dragon Blast. User makes 2 attacks against an adjacent foe with a sword and a magic blast. So, the Kamehameha. Alright, then Bond Blast. Used to make a sword attack from the unit and engage partner, followed by a magic beam. That's pretty, like, vague. How is that going to work in Fey? I don't really know. But Attuned seems to make sense, right? Like, after combat, after you initiate combat and you proc the special, your whole team gets, like, all stats of 6. And then maybe another effect, too, just to, like, be... maybe, like, bonus doubler, like, let's say. So, plus 6 all stats party-wide. Let's be specific. All stats. And then plus, like, bonus doubler, maybe? I'm thinking, for Alear's ring. Because, like, just getting all stats as blue bonuses isn't that impressive. So, they'd probably put some, like, bonus effects on it as well, like bonus doubler or treachery or things like that to like just play up the fact that you now have all stats of 6 and you can get like more out of it. So for the mainline rings, that seems to be what I would say. Lynn is the only one that has me stumped. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think Lynn's ring is going to do, and we'll do another one of these later, probably tomorrow or I don't know, like in a couple of days for the one for the DLC rings, because we have quite a few of those as well. So that should be a separate video. And this is your boy Tacho signing out. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.